The fat director had gotten many new engines while Rekaby was at the works. Rekaby hadn't been on the island for a very long time, and the engines couldn't cope with the work on their own. So, he got a few newer engines, and in this included a little red engine called Winston. Winston, unlike 87546 and 98462, he always does any job he's given, and does it in a happy and upright manner. He's also very strong, and always is on time. And one day, he would meet a very interesting character at the station. Let's see who it is. I cannot believe it. Rebecca, how are you? It's been a very long time since you were on this island. Whatever happened to you and Roderick? Well, after being on your island for a little long while, our controllers put in the request to have us back. And now, I take goods trains wherever they're needed. And today, I just happened to have a train to take to here. When I heard the news, I was delighted to get to see you again. Well, I think I speak for all of us when I say, it's nice to see you again, Rebecca. I hope you and Roderick are doing well. We are doing great. Thank you, Eagle. And I was hoping to see more of our friends. Such a shame. But I think Roderick has plans to be visiting you next, so I'd watch out for that. I remember Roderick. And I remember one night at the sheds, where he basically shouted at me and Albert for being annoying little twits. I miss the engine, and I can't believe he's Gordon's brother. He's actually pleasant to listen to. While with Gordon, well, I think he likes to listen to his fat lips talking. Meh, Gordon was alright for me when I first arrived. Although, I do agree with you there, he was a bit boastful. That's our Gordon for you. And say, Rebecca, why haven't you left yet? Oh, my driver got news that there's a landslide somewhere down the line, so I'm just waiting for that to be cleared. They said that they're sending a big green engine to clean it. Well, I sure hope they do it soon. I'm supposed to be leaving with my own train soon, too. But Eagle wouldn't have to wait for long, as a big green steam engine came roaring down the line. When the engine saw who the big green engine was, their eyes popped. They couldn't believe it. It was Rekaby, completely rebuilt into a new shape and with a lovely coat of green. Hello everyone, it's me, Rekaby, if you didn't recognize me, he said. I have cleared the line after coming back from the works, and I was completely rebuilt, so now I'm stronger, faster, and more efficient. But the other engines didn't care at all. They just gave him an ugly stare. Before Rekaby left for the island, he was a very rude and troublesome engine, and they never took much care for him. Winston, however, was the only engine who gave him a warm greeting. Hello, my name's Winston. I never met you before because you left the island when I arrived. But I heard a lot about you, and I'm happy to meet you, he said awkwardly. But it didn't matter, as Rekaby already started to seem sad at the engine's reactions. It was very unusual to see Rekaby ever looking sad, and Winston was quite puzzled. Tyler finally broke the camel's back. And why are you even here? You were gone for so long, I thought you were finally sent away. It appears I was wrong. But I shouldn't worry, you'll probably be sent away. How rude and horrid you are. Go away already. No one wants to look at your ugly fizz. Surprisingly, Rekaby didn't say anything to insult Tyler, and he sadly obliged and puffed away. The engines were quite taken aback. They'd never expected this reaction from Rekaby. He sadly puffed away to the sheds, passing a very disgruntled Winston. He was quite surprised at the engine's reaction. While the other engines started arguing, Winston slowly slipped out of the station and decided to go and check on Reggaby. After Winston dropped off his freight train, he found a very sad Reggaby in the sheds, and he decided to go and talk to him. Is everything okay, Reggaby? Winston asked. Yes, everything's alright. Run along now, little red one. I'm sure you have better work to do. Not for another hour, so I might as well check on you. Are you sure everything is alright? You seem pretty sad at the station, and you seem even sadder here. Oh, it's nothing really. It's just, I guess the consequences of my poor behavior are finally getting back to me. Nevertheless, I brought this on myself, and it's not anyone else's fault. Does this have something to do with the reaction the engines had when you arrived at the station? Partially. You see, when I first had my accident, the fat director sent me to Crew, where I was rebuilt into this new engine. As you know, it took a very long time to be completed, and I was shielded from the outside reality for a very long time. And finally, I really started to think about my poor decisions, and once I was let out of my shed, I was fixated on trying to make amends with everyone. Well, you know what, Reggaby? I think I might be able to help you with that. Meet me at Tidmouth Sheds tonight. Later that night, Reggaby found himself sleeping at Tidmouth Sheds. He was already very nervous, and the angry looks on everyone didn't help. Gordon was the first one to speak. Oh, Reggaby, my dear engine, how I've missed you. It's been a while since we had a proper express engine on this island. The last free, well, let's just say it was mixed. How are you, old friend? I'm pretty good, thank you, Gordon, said Reggaby, who was mixed with words himself. I hope you're well too, and, oh, look, is that Nicholas? Oh, Nicholas, how I've not seen you in a long time. How are you? Nicholas chose not to say anything, which kind of brought Reggaby down. Okay, you're pretty awfully quiet tonight, that's fine. Oh, Thomas, look, in blue, just like Gordon, you look very smart. Oh, don't start with me, Reggaby, please, said Thomas, who was very indignant. That's alright, Thomas, said Reggaby, he was about to say Adam, but Adam quickly interrupted him. You cannot be serious right now. You can't just come back home, waltz in our sheds, and play the nice card to try and get back in our good graces after all the things you put us through. Be gone already. Finally, Reggaby lost patience. Don't flatter yourself, please, Adam. If I'd ever want to be friends with you, why I'd sink myself in a ditch. And he quickly puffed away. After a very long and cold night in the carriage sheds, Reggaby found his cool and the next day coupled up to his very first passenger train. It was the first train he had pulled in a very long time, and he was feeling nervous. Winston puffed up next to him and saw that he was looking glum. "What's the matter, Reggaby?" he asked. "Why do you look so sad? It's a bright new day." "I'm worried," Reggaby said. "I haven't pulled a train in a very long time, let alone a passenger train full of very, very criticizing passengers. I'm worried I might mess up." "Don't worry yourself too much, Reggaby," said Winston. "I'm sure you'll do great. I'm positive you have plenty of puff left in you. And besides, try not to think about the other engines too much. They'll take a while to warm up to you." "No kidding. And I'll have to work especially hard to get through Adam. He's a very tough nut to crack." "Well, that's my cue to leave. See you later, Winston," said a very disheartened Reggaby. As he traversed the main line, he was deep in thought. Oh, what to do, how shall I win the others over, he thought. He was so deep in thought that he forgot to check his speed, and mind you, he was going incredibly fast. He eventually made it to the station, and he was so deep in thought he noticed nothing, but someone did. It was Henry at the platform. "Stop, Reggaby, stop! You're approaching the station!" The driver put on the brakes, but it was far too late. The coaches banged into Reggaby, pushing him forwards. The passengers banged their head on everything, and luggage went everywhere. Reggaby flew through the station. Reggaby's wheels screeched on the rails, the passengers' ears were pierced, and suddenly, he gave them a hard bump as he stopped. Reggaby was indignant. "Bother!" he cried. He looked back to see how much of the platform did he miss, and he was appalled at how much he did. His whole train overshot it. He backed up towards the platform, feeling very angry and ashamed. Henry and Reggaby weren't really friends, but Henry still decided it would be nice to check in on him. Reggaby, you okay? You seem off today." Yes, I'm alright. "Well, geez, sorry for asking. I was just thinking, no, I'm sorry. It's just, I'm not angry at you, Henry. I'm angry at myself." Henry was caught off guard. He had never heard Reggaby apologize to him before. You're sorry?" "Yes, I'm sorry. Is it that hard to believe?" shouted Reggaby. "I mean," Henry said, "you never apologized for anything you did, and you always just laughed it off or just continued in your horrible ways." "I know, Henry, and I just wanted to apologize to you first. But I'm really trying to make a change, but it seems like no one will let me change." Henry smiled at this. "Don't worry, Reggaby. With time, I'm sure everyone will be your friend. Don't worry." "That's my guard, Reggaby. I better be going. See you later. Don't forget what I said to you." And with that, Henry puffed away. Later that day, Reggaby was back at the sheds, and the fat director had a few stern words for him. "Now, Reggaby, I understand you're getting used to pulling trains again, but upsetting your passengers is not acceptable. As such, I have arranged for you to head to Brendam Docks to pull the freight train with Winston." Reggaby loudly sighed. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir," Reggaby said. "I should hope so, Reggaby. Now, I have to be heading off. My wife has made the best lunch ever." And with that, he waddled away, leaving Reggaby and Emily in the sheds alone. Emily felt partially bad for Reggaby and decided to try and comfort him. "Don't worry, Reggaby. I'm sure everything will turn out well for you too. I sometimes have trouble stopping at stations too, with my traction issues and all." "Thank you, Emily. I do hope that working with Winston will help me a bit. I really don't wish to upset the fat director any further." "I'm sure everything will turn out well," soothed Emily. "Now you better be going. You don't want to be late." Reggaby puffed away, still feeling very sad about himself, but was determined to try his best to make up for his mistake. Reggaby arrived at the docks to collect the train he was meant to pull with Winston. He was still feeling very under the weather, but he was just determined to get the train over with. Nearly almost before Reggaby stopped, he could hear a loud whistle behind him. He knew it was Winston, but that didn't make him any happier. Winston, however, was as cheerful as a button, and puffed up right next to Reggaby. "Well, I must say I'm impressed. I knew you wanted to make a good impression with the other engines. But taking my train for me, well, that's a whole nother level. Thank you, Ragaby, I really needed a rest. Don't patronize me, please, said Ragaby. Alright, I was just messing with you, but what's wrong? The fat director was not happy with me when something happened at the station earlier today, and he explained everything. By the time he finished, Winston wasn't all that impressed. Is that all? Ha! I've seen engines do worse than you, Ragaby. You're on the right path, but I think you still need a little push. Now, how about I give you a little pull? So, Ragaby and Winston made their way down the Brenda Bay branch line, which was covered by fields of green, sandy yellow beaches, and lots of crystal clear blue water. So, Ragaby, tell me a bit about yourself. What's there to say about me? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of things. There's not really that much. Well, come on, there has to be something. Like, look at that station and that crossing. There's many stories behind it, I'm sure. There has to be something about you. Well, all I can really say is that I worked in the LMS for a very long time until I was sent to Sodor and, well, you know the impact I had on this island. Oh, come on, Ragaby, that can't be all. What's there about you to say? Oh, plenty. I'm red, I'm fast, I'm strong, I'm happy, I'm upright, and there's so much. When will this ride end? Now come on, Ragaby, don't be like that. You said you wanted to make yourself a better engine. Well, yes, but you're not really necessarily helping me. But I kind of am. I'm trying to explore your emotions a bit, you know? What you're thinking in there. Oh my god. Well, if you must know, on my old line, something significant did happen. You see, I was always belittled by the bigger engines when, well, I guess that really impacted my views on Sodor, and I felt I had to dominate everyone to be on top finally. That was all I was ever looking for. And look where that got me. No wonder everyone hates me. I was only thinking about myself. I'm so selfish. Now don't say that about yourself, Ragaby. You realize where your flaws are, and now you're gonna work on them. Once the two engines delivered their train, they both went their separate ways, and Winston went back to go to shunt at the docks, and Ragaby decided to go home. On the way, he really started to think about what Winston was saying to him. He was lost in thought throughout the whole journey, and could think of nothing but his conversation with Winston. He was feeling very unlike himself, and very glum, but presently, he approached a very peculiar sight. It was Edward and Neil with a passenger train, but they looked sad and were in a siding. Ragaby stopped to see what the problem was. Is everything okay with you two? He said. Not really, Ragaby, Edward replied. You see, Neil had a cylinder leak and I was sent to go help him. But I ran out of coal and now we're stuck in this siding. Could you please take our passengers to the next station? Ragaby gave a large grin. I'll do you two a better one. And with that, he suspensefully puffed away. You don't think he's going to get help? Neil asked Edward. I don't think so, Neil. I think he just ditched us altogether. What was that sound, Neil? Edward pondered. He heard someone couple up from behind. He looked back and saw it was Ragaby. Don't worry, you two. I'll take you and your passengers to the next station. And with that, he pulled the two engines out of the siding. Edward and Neil remained skeptical, but they were happy for the help. After helping Neil and Edward, Regabee went to Wellsworth to have a rest. He was very exhausted, but he felt proud of himself. However, Regabee wouldn't get any rest anytime soon. As wheezing and hooting came Tyler and Lily. They had to pull a train for Adam, but they were running very late and were exhausted. I can't go any longer, Lily, before I burst my safety valve. My boiler is fit to burst. No, out of the question, Tyler. We promised Adam we'd take this train and... What's the matter, you two? I thought you were reliable engines. I guess I was wrong. Although, never mind, Regabee said, rolling up. You two did your best to make it here, but I think you're in need for some help. Oh, really? You'd help us? Why? What do you want? Said Lily, trying to fish an answer out of Regabee. No reason, just thought I'd help you. And with that, Regabee backed up to the back of the train. Later that evening, the trio returned home. The engines were tired but proud, and nobody was more proud than Regabee. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this to grumpy old Regabee, but thank you, Regabee. You really helped us. I never thought you, of all engines, would help us too. Not bad, Regabee, even for you. But you could have been better, just like the engines on the mainland. Oh, fast machines they are. Well, yes, ignoring what Tyler said, you were really great today, Regabee. Thank you. Why, of course. My rebuild wasn't just done to pull heavier and longer freight or passenger trains, but is to help all the other engines in my roster, and I'm happy to do so. I helped Edward and Neil today, actually, and now I got to help you two. Well, whatever reason you have it, we're happy you have it, and I'm sure more good will come with it. What's this now, Regabee? Picking on engines that are smaller than you? Wow, that's a new low. And I thought I told you weren't welcome here. Now be gone. Well, Mr. Red Tomato, you'll be happy to know that I wasn't picking on anyone. Me, Lily, and Tyler were resting after a long day of work. We had to pull a very long passenger train that I hear that you were too incompetent to pull. Oh yeah, of course. You, Regabee, weren't picking on anyone. Ha! Very believable. He wasn't picking on anyone, Adam. He was telling the truth. We just got back from Mickerstown. We're so exhausted and don't have time to bother with you. Now, how about you? Be gone. Well, Lily, I guess you've made it apparent on whose side you're on. Fine, I will leave. And with that, Adam very angrily left the yards. The engines didn't know what to make of the situation, so they thought it would be best to leave for their sheds to get a good night's sleep. The next day, Regabee was at Wellsworth again with a freight train, but there was a problem. His brake fan had failed, and now he couldn't leave the station without it. When suddenly, Winston arrived. Hey Winston, greeted Regabee. What's got you so down? Oh, these trains are getting heavier and heavier by the day. I'm running a bit behind schedule, and I have no idea what to do. Suddenly, an idea flew into Regabee's funnel. You know, I have an idea on how to help the both of us. Why don't I take your train onwards, and you can go focus on the next one? I'm going to Vickerstown anyways, so I could probably leave it somewhere on the way, and what perfect timing! My brake fin is out of order, and I could certainly use one. Now, Winston wasn't so sure about this idea, but he knew if he was late taking a train, then the fat director would be very cross with him. So, reluctantly, he obliged, and arrangements were made, and Ragaby's train was coupled up to Winston's. Now, are you so sure this is going to work, Ragaby? How are you going to get up the hill? Well, look at me. I'm a complete rebuilt engine. I think I can coast the hill fine. That's the guard. I'd best be going or we'll both be late. And with that, Ragaby puffed away, leaving a still very brave Winston behind. The trucks chattered amongst each other.
Who's this big green fella to be pulling us? Yeah, he must be in the proper engine to be pulling us.
The trucks chattered.
We should get revenge on him,
one of them said. Winston heard all of this, and tried to warn Ragaby, but Ragaby was already far away. Ragaby charged down the main line with the noisy trucks. They kept trying to cause trouble for him, but he stood no nonsense, and gave them a hard bump whenever they misbehaved. The trucks cried out in pain, but Ragaby didn't care, and he started climbing the high hill. Climbing the hill was easier said than done, and Ragaby was finding it hard. I think I can, Ragaby said as he climbed the hill. Presently, Ragaby made it to the top. He was overjoyed. I did it! He cried out loud, and continued down the line, but there was more trouble ahead of him. Now, you see, whenever an engine has to go downhill with a heavy load, the engine and the driver must make sure to keep a steady pace to avoid a crash. Ragaby's driver put on the brakes as hard as he could, and Ragaby used every ounce of weight and steam against the trucks, but it was no use. Ragaby flew down the line and the trucks used their weights against him. On, they cried. Stop! Ragaby flew down the line faster than he had ever gone before. A signalman switched him off a different track. Ragaby was frightened. Oh dear, I don't want to visit the works again. Not again! He kept rushing down the line, rounded a bend as the silly trucks laughed on and on. Finally, he approached another set of points which were switched to the opposite way. Oh dear, I must stop at once. I must, Ragaby said as he saw a set of buffers ahead of him. He applied his brakes the hardest he ever could. He tried everything with all his might, and finally, he beat the silly trucks and stopped a few inches away from the buffers. Once Ragaby was able to comprehend everything that happened, he was very puzzled at where he was. There were so many old buildings around him. They were all rusty, old, and looked very dirty. Where am I? Ragaby thought. I've never seen this place before. Ragaby thought it would be a good idea to go back home and in future be a bit more careful. Later that day, Ragaby was back at the yards and he was telling Edward and Eagle everything. Said a very confused Edward. I don't think I ever heard of this station, let alone been there or seen it. I'm sorry, Ragaby. I know what he's talking about, Eagle said excitedly. That's the old station that connected the Wellsworth and Sudbury Railway with the Todor, Ellsbridge and Tidmouth Light Railway. Oh, I haven't been there in a while. And then he started to explain. You see, back when the Wellsworth and Sudbury extended their line to Brendam Docks, the railway arranged for us to have our own very station that connected both of the lines. So you see, one way goes to the Wellsworth and Sudbury line, which is the Brenham Bay branch line, and the other goes to the Tidmouth and Elsbridge Light Railway, which is now the main line. Well, that barely makes any sense, Eagle. I mean, how would you even get there? We were planning to make an alternate route towards it, but that was clearly a bust as we ran out of funds. So now, the station just sits there, but we cannot reopen it. So at once, the two engines went to go talk to the Fat Director about the station. Reggaby told him about it in his discovery, and Eagle pitched the idea to reopen it. The Fat Director was mesmerized, and was on full swing with the idea, and after a very, very long half-month, the station was reopened in all of its glory. Many people came to see its reopening. Everyone was happy about the rediscovery. Well, most of the engines were. Adam, who was still very salty when the subject of Reggaby came up, was not happy at all when Colin told him about it. Wasting precious money on that old relic station. Why do we need it anyways? We have Wellsworth, don't we? Yes, well, the difference between those two stations is that Wellsworth is a mainline station, and many mainline trains go through it. So sometimes, whenever an engine has to pick up more trucks or exchange some, well, it's hard to find a clear line. And so, the Fat Director is going to use that primarily as an exchange station. And there's many beautiful landmarks near it, and the Fat Director sure will bring a lot of tourists. Yes, well, I think it's just flushing money down the toilet. I think Wellsworth served good as an exchange yards. Well, yes, Adam, but you know what I think? I think you're too big for your buffers, and it's not mine, nor the station's problem. You're too jealous. Bye-bye. And he happily chortled away, leaving a very furious Adam behind. Pah! Stuff and nonsense, he said. Too much excitement over a station, I say. But we'll see how that goes for the Fat Director. I'm sure it will be a bust. And he soon puffed away. Later that day, Adam was tasked to pull a very small freight train. The freight train was filled with rocks, bushes, old tree branches, scrap, and some old tracks. They were all from the old station that was recently restored, and he was not happy about it. Absolutely heinous, Adam murmured to himself. Making an engine like me waste my talents on such rubbish. Preposterous. Dump it in the sea, I say. Now, Adam is a nice engine, but he has problems controlling his anger, and whenever he's angry, well, that's when the problems really begin. The trucks never like being pulled by Adam, but they surprisingly come along nicely. They know that if he gets agitated in the slightest bit, he'll tear them to shreds, and they choose the safer option and just behave. But sometimes, trucks do tend to cause trouble for him. The guard's whistle boomed, and Adam was relieved to finally get going, but he accidentally bumped the trucks as he started. The trucks had finally had enough of his bad behavior towards them, and thought they'd pay him out. A very cross Adam was now charging down the line, and became even crosser when the trucks started playing their old tricks again. But eventually, he surprisingly managed to tire them out, and they stopped with their tomfoolery. He started climbing the hill and he charged up it. He was not in the mood to stall. "Come on, come on, come on," he cried as he climbed, and presently, he made it to the top. "I knew I could do it, I knew I could do it," he said, but the trouble soon arose. When Adam's driver tried to apply the brakes, there was a problem. He couldn't slow him down enough. His breaker fluid had leaked all over the rails, and now they weren't working. Adam was gradually starting to speed up, and he couldn't slow down. The driver and the fireman meddled with the controls, but to no avail. The weight of the heavy cars pushed Adam on, but there was more trouble. There was Reggaby exiting the yards. He was on the same line as Adam. What in blazes, Ragaby thought as he saw the rushing engine, and BAM! Adam had hit into Ragaby, launching both of them into the yards. They were going very fast. Ragaby immediately took control and applied his brakes. His driver and fireman put every ounce of weight and steam against the heavy cars. But then there was more trouble. The brothers were fast approaching and the engines were going very fast, when suddenly... BAM! Oh my goodness. Ragaby? You saved me? Why? Said Adam, who was more surprised at the fact that Ragaby helped him, instead of the fact that he could have just collided in the buffers head-on first. Yes, I'm as equally surprised. Are you okay, Adam? Why did you come down so fast? My breaker fluid must have ran out or something. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, Ragaby, but thank you for saving me, and I'm sorry for the poor attitude I had towards you before. It's alright, said a very shocked Ragaby. The old me was very rude to you, and I shouldn't have played that unlawful trick on you. Do you want to leave old rivals behind and be friends? No. Ever since that day, Ragaby has made firm friends with all the Fat Director's engines. He can be boastful a lot, and too big for his buffers, as the others would say, but they know that's who Ragaby is, and they tend to roll it off their back. And despite Adam's words, shockingly, the two engines managed to make out their differences, and now they're firm friends. However, they do tend to bicker a lot, but that's just fine by them. It's who they are, and everyone got used to it. And if you ask me, I think that's how the two engines like it. Do you?